Victoria stared down at her freshly calibrated, custom-built espresso machine, refusing to make eye contact with the man whose entire career she was casually dismantling with a single keystroke. Pack your personal belongings into a standard box. Your contract at Apex Vanguard is void as of this exact second, she announced, her voice entirely devoid of warmth as she clicked through the corporate welcome portal for her very first shift. Standing directly behind the newly appointed regional director, who happened to be the founder's spoiled daughter-in-law, a sweating assistant director trembled as if he were witnessing a high-stakes robbery in broad daylight. The gloss on her signed executive contract was literally still drying on the mahogany desk, yet she had already assumed the role of absolute monarch over the entire floor. Julian felt a cold prickle of disbelief wash over his spine, his fingers freezing over the blueprint schematics he had spent the last 7 grueling years perfecting for the firm. There was no polite handshake, no official exit interview, nor even a vague attempt to justify why a master architect was being tossed into the street like disposable trash. His jaw tightened as he watched her dismissively wave a manicured hand toward the glass exit doors, treating his decade of loyalty as nothing more than a minor clerical error. The terrified assistant nervously gestured toward the hallway, desperately eager to avoid becoming collateral damage in this unprovoked administrative slaughter. Instead of throwing a futile temper tantrum that would only give the corporate tribunal an excuse to call law enforcement, Julian calmly gathered his hand-drawn drafting pencils and locked his private desk drawer with a sharp, deliberate click. He knew something that this arrogant heiress had completely failed to check during her 5-minute skim of the company's organizational chart. As the architect of the firm's entire cloud security infrastructure, Julian held the master encryption keys to the upcoming $40 million municipal pitch in his personal, offline drive. With a subtle flick of his thumb against his keyring, he silently initiated a secondary security protocol that he had legally patented under his own name years prior. Leaving the glittering glass tower behind, Julian walked into the torrential afternoon rain with a quiet, dangerous calm settling deep within his chest. He took a seat at a dimly lit diner across the avenue, ordering a lukewarm cup of black coffee while monitoring the firm's internal network traffic on his encrypted tablet. Within less than 20 minutes, the predictably panicked notifications began flashing across his high-resolution screen like frantic distress flares. Victoria had attempted to launch the flagship presentation deck for the City Council Board, completely unaware that the primary data portal was hard-coded to Julian's unique cryptographic signature. Inside the executive boardroom on the 42nd floor, absolute chaos erupted as the main display monitors flashed an ominous, crimson access denied warning. Victoria furiously slammed her bedazzled fingernails against the keyboard, screeching demands at the terrified IT department who could only shrug in collective powerlessness. The city commissioners, unimpressed by the chaotic spectacle and the complete lack of professional preparation, began quietly packing their leather portfolios with visible disgust. The founder himself, watching the disastrous presentation unfold through a remote video feed from his vacation estate, felt his blood pressure spike to dangerous levels. Recognizing that her golden status was rapidly evaporating before her very eyes, Victoria forced the shuddering HR assistant to call Julian's personal mobile number on speakerphone. Julian let the phone ring 7 agonizing times before finally answering with an unhurried, perfectly pleasant greeting that instantly set her teeth on edge. "You need to bring your decryption passcodes back to the office this immediate second, or I will ensure you are blacklisted from every architectural firm in the country," she barked, her synthetic composure rapidly fracturing into raw panic. Julian simply took a slow sip of his coffee, enjoying the sheer desperation dripping from every word of her frantic threat. "I am afraid my consulting services are no longer governed by my former employee agreement, which you so enthusiastically terminated less than an hour ago," Julian responded with a cool, measured cadence that echoed loudly through the silent boardroom. He plainly explained that the entire software framework was registered to his private limited liability company, meaning any unauthorized override attempt would trigger an immediate corporate espionage lawsuit. Victoria's face flushed a deep, violent shade of crimson as the city commissioners officially announced they were withdrawing their multi-million-dollar contract proposal. The silence that followed her catastrophic failure was heavy enough to crush whatever fragile authority she thought she possessed. By the next morning, the board of directors had convened an emergency midnight session to assess the catastrophic financial fallout caused by the founder's spoiled relative. They swiftly stripped Victoria of her newly minted title, reassigning her to an windowless basement cubicle where her sole responsibility was manually filing paper receipts from the late 90s. Realizing that Julian was the only human being capable of salvaging their crumbling municipal reputation, the chairman personally called him with an unconditional offer of full executive partnership. Julian negotiated a contract that granted him complete autonomy over the department, along with a massive signing bonus that dwarfed his previous annual salary. When Julian strolled back into the corner office the following Monday, the atmosphere across the floor had shifted from suffocating dread to palpable respect. Victoria was forced to watch from the hallway as team members openly celebrated the return of the man who had single-handedly humbled the untouchable corporate dynasty. She clutched a stack of dusty manila folders against her chest, lowering her eyes in profound humiliation as Julian casually walked past her desk without offering a second glance. The poetic justice was absolute, proving that unearned entitlement is never a match for genuine expertise and quiet strategic patience. Julian took his seat behind the grand mahogany desk, adjusting the sleek monitor setup that now displayed the fully restored, million-dollar municipal blueprints. He hired the formerly terrified junior HR rep as his direct administrative chief, rewarding the young man for refusing to participate in Victoria's abusive antics. The firm's profit margins surged over the next 2 quarters, as Julian's streamlined protocols eliminated the nepotism that had secretly plagued the company for years. Every employee on the floor worked with renewed vigor, knowing that true talent and integrity were finally prioritized over family connections. Victoria lasted less than 3 weeks in her demoralizing filing role, before quietly submitting her resignation through a generic, auto-generated email. She departed the building without a single colleague offering a polite farewell or stopping by her tiny desk to wish her well in future endeavors. Her legacy at Apex Vanguard was reduced to a cautionary tale about the immense danger of burning bridges before you even learn how to cross them. Meanwhile, Julian's reputation as both an uncompromising genius and an honorable leader spread rapidly throughout the entire metropolitan business district. The firm ultimately secured the municipal contract, breaking ground on a revolutionary transit hub that would redefine the city's skyline for generations to come. Julian stood on the top floor of the construction site months later, watching the steel beams rise into the crisp morning air with deep personal satisfaction. He had transformed a malicious attempt to destroy his livelihood into the greatest professional victory of his entire life through pure competence. True leverage, he reflected silently, never required raising one's voice or making loud, arrogant declarations of authority. The story of Julian's triumphant return became legendary among the junior staff, serving as a constant reminder that arrogance always constructs its own eventual downfall. The founder himself stepped down shortly after the incident, publicly apologizing to the shareholders for allowing nepotism to compromise the integrity of the firm. With Julian now firmly at the helm of operations, the company achieved unprecedented financial growth while fostering a culture rooted in mutual respect. The corner office, once a place of ruthless execution, had finally become a beacon of genuine leadership and creative excellence. As Julian looked back on that stormy afternoon at the diner, he felt a genuine sense of gratitude for the woman who had tried so carelessly to ruin him. Her short-sighted cruelty had inadvertently freed him from a glass ceiling he had been quietly struggling under for nearly a decade. Sometimes, the absolute best thing an enemy can do is push you off a ledge before realizing you are the only one who knows how to fly. Justice had been served swiftly, silently, and with the kind of absolute mathematical precision that no amount of privilege could ever override. This dramatic tale reminds us that professional integrity and true skill will always triumph over unearned arrogance and petty office politics in the end. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.